Let's take a hypothetical scenario, right? So I'm hiring for a user-facing role. And if and you're the recruiter for me, so you're helping me with that particular position. So when you ask me that question in terms of skill sets, I'll probably call out 3 skill sets. I would say that so this person needs to be good at product. This person needs to be good at customer empathy. And this person ideally should be good at UX, but I can teach him UX. If he doesn't know UX, I can teach him UX, right? But product sense, user empathy, and ability to work with the team are non-negotiables, right? Now, what I expect from the recruiting person to do upfront is so when they are having this first conversation with the candidate, so they will try and look at the product experience that this candidate has had from the lens of these 3 skill sets, right? So, for example, so some of the key questions, and this is like probably a mid-level hiring, then fresher hiring. We can talk about fresher hiring as well. But some of the key questions you can get into, right? So for example, like, so what are the key projects that you have done where you had to develop a product from understanding perspective, right? So, and then get deeper into that, right? So for example, like, so how you went about developing that product. So whatever the customer needs, whatever the things that, so what are the solutions that you translated those customer needs into, right? So how did you go about, what are the trade-offs that you made, right? So in a way, like, so there's no shortcut, right? So if you want to be good at product hiring, so you have to become good at initial product interviews as well. So understand how those filtering interviews happen, and then adapt some of those questions for your own pre-filtering. So you have to be, in fact, I would say that your job is slightly more difficult because the context for the candidate is not you interviewing them. So context for candidate is just sharing information with you as a recruiter, right? So, but you have to understand the skill set matching even during that conversation. But I would suggest is in terms of framework, again, so going back to the hypothetical scenario. So I wanted somebody to have good product sense. So I would ask them about the problems the products they worked on and how they went about building those products, right? So understand that. I wanted somebody to have good customer empathy. I would want to understand what are the key problems that they figured out, right? So if you may not be able to get much out of their previous experience, if you're not, and that's fine, right? So please ask them about general industry questions. For example, like one of my favorite questions these days is about food delivery, right? So which food delivery app do they use, and what do they think about those apps? What are the things that they're doing well? What are the things that they're not doing well? What are the key problems, user problems that can solve for these? Let's say somebody's favorite app is Swiggy, right? So what are the key problems that Swiggy can solve for its users? What are the key pain points that Swiggy is missing? So people, or WhatsApp for that matter, right? So everybody uses WhatsApp. So what are the key user pain points that WhatsApp is not solving for, right? So good product people, people who have good product sense, so would actually get into use cases. People with bad product sense would tell you that, okay, the button is smaller, the colors can be changed, or the number of people in the group should go beyond 200, right? Those are all incremental plays. They're not really thinking about problems. They're not really thinking about solutions, right? So those are some of the questions that you have to learn to bring into your initial conversations. If you're able to bring these questions into your initial conversations, you'll become much better at pre-filtering. Anyways, these questions are gonna get asked in the first and the second and the third rounds, right? So you should rather pre-filter at your end. So and I think my mantra stays same. Understand the skill sets. Check for those skill sets during your pre-filtering rounds. Becomes much easier if the candidate has some experience. If the candidate does not have experience, so talk about these hypothetical scenarios in terms of what do you think about Swiggy? How do you improve Swiggy? How do you improve WhatsApp? What do you think? What are the key pain points that Swiggy is doing well on? What are the key pain points Swiggy is not doing well on? So if you're able to have those conversations, I think, and if the candidate is able to offer you some perspective, you will. I would say that that candidate is probably a good candidate. You will fail in the first conversation, the second conversation, the third conversation, the 10th conversation. By 10th conversation, so you would have a benchmark of what good candidates say, what bad candidates say. But it's important to go through that grind, right? So if you're not able to go through that grind, right? So don't worry about like the first 10 conversations because that's a learning experience for you. But start asking those questions, right?